Alright, so I'm a little ways up the road from the house. Apparently, the last video upload, a lot of people noticed something getting thrown at me hitting the quad. And just so you guys know, we've got a couple weird things go on around here since we first moved here around the house, and I'm 100% confident myself I caught something on a photograph down the river. But for me, whatever, I don't give a shit. It is what it is. As long as these beings that we're speaking of just leave me alone, I don't give a shit much. It's not about me and them. I've had my experiences, and I'm good, as you know. And just so you know as well, with my hearing, there's a shit pile of background sound when I'm videotaping down by the river alone. Birds, wind, water drops, and my ears are ringing like a frickin' son of a gun non-stop. I almost got shot in the head with a 300 Weatherby Magnum, Magnaported with a barrel. Magnaported was right about there, and the guy's gun went off by accident. Guy was guiding. It was like I took a soccer kick to the side of the head, and everything went completely blank. Just like how they depict the explosions in the army in the war movies, you know? And you hear a bong going in your head, and then what happened just a few years later, I had somebody else blow off a 30-odd six right behind my head. So anyway, I've got the ringing going on like you wouldn't believe. So a lot of things, some things I just don't hear, some things I just ignore. Alright? So if something's throwing something at me, so be it. If it's throwing something at me to hit me, to injure me, then I'll start packing a weapon to protect myself. But other than that, it is what it is, right? These things are going to happen. These things happen. And like I said, I am where these experiences go down. And I'm right next door to First Nations community land. And as well, I got salmon rivers in my back 40. So what more do you need, right? Seriously, what more do you need to up the chances of something going down? Anyway, I just don't pay much attention because I don't want anything to do with it. Unless I'm trying. Now, I got some email shares. What's this one? Is this it? Oh, sure. Here we go. We got another one from the Owl Man, titled Owl Man. This man has shared some interesting emails in the past with everybody. See what he's got. Steve, thank you again for taking the time to read this. I decided to send another email to help so many of the people who are traumatized knowing the wild people exist. Sadly, we as a people are more easily motivated by fear than any other emotion. Fear of what coulda, woulda, or can happen is a really hard thing to overcome. Even if it was publicly known these beings exist, people will still never handle it well. No doubt. I'm a firm believer that human beings develop urban culture out of fear of everything that lives in the wild places. It is a false sense of security for obvious reasons. People who experience the reality of these beings react in one of two ways. They're either curious and want to do more, or they are so traumatized it alters their way of life forever. Let me try to help these people. The Sabe are people who have the same emotions we have. They have a social structure not much different from us, especially as hunter-gathering peoples. The Sabe react no differently than any other hunter and gather people who encounter a more advanced people group. Historically, all hunter-gatherer people reacted differently. Some were friendly, some were timid, some were hostile. The difference with the Sabe are that they all pretty much know who we are. They can't avoid the impact we have on their lives. People have to remember, they live in nuclear families with elderly, infants, and children of all ages. Just like us, they want to protect their families. They live very long lives, and a clan may occupy a territory for centuries before one of our people buys the land and makes claim to it. To them, a landowner is an intruder on their ancestral lands. This is no different from any other Aboriginal people. The great exception here is you can't round up Sabe and put them in a designated place. That'll never happen. So we have a problem. How can we learn to live with them, especially if the area has limited wild places and not areas of vast wilderness? First off, accept that these beings are a type of people with language and culture. They seem to have autistic and obsessive compulsive tendencies, which makes them a challenge to interact with. Please consider this. We can argue forever about their origins and their nature, and no one will ever agree. They do not want to eat you any more than your neighbor does. They're no more cannibals or murderers as we are. We as people don't treat each other as such, despite knowing that we have people like this amongst us. We go about our social lives as if every one of us are decent people, do we not? Imagine what a shitty world we'd live in if we viewed everyone around us as a criminal of the highest degree. Why can't we not apply that to the Sabe? The simple reason we don't is because they are so different from us, yet so similar, and that disturbs our psyche. We are terrified of things that walk upright and have our basic form, but do not fit the norm. Think about people who see dogmen on all fours. They're not terrified of an abnormally large wolf on all four legs, even if it's the size of a horse. They became traumatized when it stands on two legs and walks away. Knowing they exist, it's best to keep in mind they are everywhere. I mean everywhere. They are in every habitat that holds cover, water, and some type of game. They're omnivores like we are. In a way, even more so because they can eat plant material we can't. Are they predators? No more than we are. They are living outside of all the major cities in North America, and who knows where else in the world. They will venture inside our cities through utility right-of-ways and railroads. People in suburbs and countryside run the chance of having them as neighbors. Remember, they are just as adaptable as us, even more so, because they do not alter the environment to suit their needs. They adapt to the environment to suit theirs. This is probably unsettling to so many people. Do not expect to see one despite how common they actually are. The vast majority of people who experience them are people who frequent their areas often. It is usually never visual. The Sabe are never alone. If you hear or see one, there will be at least one more with it. Why is that? Because they see us as a threat, and like us, there is safety in numbers. If there is one busting branch to make himself known to you, there will be another watching in silence from the opposite direction of what is holding your attention. You may not know this, but you are surrounded, and every move is surveilled. They are expecting you to behave in typical human fashion. Fear. They're either going to run or fight in some way, and they know it. Oh, you are either going to run or fight in some way, and they know it. So they will keep their distance to either let you leave or to dodge bullets. They know they can't get a shot if we can't see them. Why do they want you to leave? There could be several reasons. It doesn't mean they hate you. They let their children out of the right age wander freely to explore, having nothing typically to be afraid of. Let's say 2 or 3 hunters enter the woods heading to tree stands well before daybreak, and a young one is out there and feels trapped between these hunters. He's going to be terrified. He's going to let his parents and neighbors know he is terrified, and these hunters will have no clue. The next thing you know, each hunter is going to have an adult Sabe positioned within striking distance. At least one adult is going to try to passively get these hunters to leave. We can have a debate about what passive is to them, but the degree of urgency to that young one's fear is going to dictate how the adults handle it. The protection of their children and loved ones is a priority. It is not the same for us. Please try to consider this. They may also want you to leave because there may be something very dangerous there that they don't want you to experience. This may be hard for some people to swallow. Truth be told, there are other creatures and things much more nefarious than they are lurking in wild places. It doesn't matter if you believe it or not. You may be walking along a trail and find yourself walking through a portal, never to be seen again, and as much as it sounds like science fiction, it is not. The Sabe have told me that if we walk through one of those things, we have little chance of finding our way back. From what I understand, some of these portals can have fixed locations, but are not always open. As far as the other creatures, Dogman and Sasquatch do not get along. They call them wolf creatures, and they will not share territory together. There is an intense hatred towards these dogmen, and the Sabe have told me that dogmen can do the same things they can do. This means that those creatures are just as cognitive and sentient as Sasquatch and us, and have all the strange abilities the Sabe people have. Just remember, if they're trying to scare you out of an area, it may be for your own protection. Even if those Sabe hate humans, they do not want to deal with hordes of humans swarming into their home. They see us as hornets. One hornet gets killed, it releases a pheromone that brings the whole hives an angry swarm, stinging anything they can find in their way. They understand how we operate. What do you do if you see or hear them around you? It doesn't matter if you encounter them at home, camping, hunting, hiking. Acknowledge their presence. If you enjoy their intention, just ignore them because they will keep ramping it up until you do. There's a method to gain their trust doing that, but this is typically not for the faint of heart. Those who are curious about them may want to go down that path, but this is for those who just want nothing to do with them. Let them know you're aware they're there. Turn to the spot where you think one is. You want to face them. Do not cower in fear. You may not be face to face, but you are addressing them in a respectful way. Extend your right arm and hand with a palm up and say out loud, greetings. My name is, insert name. I know you're here. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to make you afraid. I do not want to be afraid of you. I'm just going fishing, hunting, hiking, or whatever you're doing. If you have a gun on you, tell them that what the gun is for and what you intend to use the gun on. Then tell them if they want you to leave, break a branch, push over a tree, make some noise. Then wait a few minutes. No matter what happens, if you continue on or leave, tell them thank you and blessings to you from the great creator. It is important to say great creator. That will get their attention. If you feel comfortable, go on about what you set out to do. Expect at least one to follow you, if anything now, out of curiosity than fear, because you just did something no other human has towards them. That could be good or bad depending on what type of person you are. If all this just freaks you out, leave. I know a whole lot of people who are going to say this is bullshit and make all kinds of negative comments about what I've just said. I don't expect one single person who hears this to believe a word I say. I wouldn't either if some stranger threw all this out there. All I ask is people hear this and remember it in case they need it someday. Only then can you decide if it has any validity. I can never change a person's personal thoughts and beliefs on any subject matter. I can never change how people think of the Sasquatch people. What I would like to see is for people to get over their fear, go back to the love of the outdoors that was destroyed because they discovered that the world is not what they have been led to believe. Steve, your mantra is, why are we being lied to? It is really Bigfoot as a people totally changes the narrative of what is really real and what is being hidden. Exposing them exposes everything else. It is something the Sabe call the time of the knowing. If that is of interest, I can share that another time. In the meantime, every single one of you who has had your life altered by their existence, go back to what you love to do. Do not let the fear make you sell your land and move into some miserable urban center surrounded by the worst of humanity. So back to fishing. Leave a fish on the bank for them and say thank you. If you hunt and you make a kill, tell them thank you and leave the organ meat for them and let them know that. It's not paying tribute to them as they were some type of god with a little g. It's treating them as people, not animals. They're not dogs. Do not treat them as such. Show them a little respect and human kindness. Show them the best of humanity, not the stereotype they see of us. Every one of you is an ambassador of humanity. We can either live in fear and destruction or move ahead in peace and understanding. Don't get me wrong, I've had some really hair-raising, messed up encounters with them, but I'm alive to tell the tales and I can still walk through a forest at night alone with no light or a gun, surrounded by them. I just have an understanding of what we are dealing with, and now so do all you. Thank you, Steve, for reading this and considering what I have to say. To all the people you share with, best regards, Owlman. All right, man. Knocked it out of the park again. Thanks again for sending that in. A lot of people are going to appreciate it. A lot of people obviously are going to shake their head. Yeah, I kind of figured out on my own, well before I ever spoke about it on publicly. I figured out on my own basically almost every time I go in the woods where I can feel a presence. I can feel that. I call it pressure. I've always said that. Leave me alone. Just leave me alone. I know you're here. I know you're here. You know I'm here. Let's not ruin it for each other, all right? And I'll admit, like I've admitted before in the past, I have said some not too friendly things under my breath. Basically said I'll put a hole in your head, but that's feeling threatened, feeling nervous in the dark by yourself and not wanting to be stalked, followed, and have a monstrous-sized being that's not supposed to exist up on a rock looking down at me, expecting me to come down that path right below it. I've never felt so threatened and terrified, that was the longest walk out of the woods of my life. But like the element says, I'm still here, right? Now, the description element that you give to everybody about what they do, how they live, their family units, it definitely does make them sound like they are basically almost an equal to us. But there's also some other factors that come along with a lot of sightings that freak people out. And that is, how many people have you heard from that said, basically, typically, they seen this thing vanish right before their eyes. You know, we've heard that numerous times from various people, and I believe them. I believe them. There's far, far too many witnesses have seen this. Scientists and doctors have seen this. Not that a scientist or a doctor isn't just another human being like us, but it is people who study, and we expect them to give us the true facts of the knowledge they gain. Although, sadly, today that's not so true anymore, is it? Especially with big pharma. Big pharma, government-funded scientists, they all have their voices strangled out of them when it comes to the truth to the public, right? So, anyway, I guess getting back to what I'm getting to is there's a lot of very abnormal, strange skills that a lot of these beings, or maybe it's not the Sabe, the typical Sabe beings, maybe it's something else. They can have red glowing eyes and mimic any sound and disappear in front of us. It's a one hell of a shit-eating topic to wrap your brain around if you don't have any previous knowledge of it and you've never had an experience and you don't know anybody. Imagine trying to wrap your head around all the shit that we've been talking about here nonstop. Imagine that. Imagine being absolutely naive, absolutely oblivious to any of this besides a frickin' beef jerky commercial. And all of a sudden we come across 250,000 people sharing all the stories here, non-stop, every single day. It's an amazing topic. It's a frustrating topic. Or like you said, a lot of people, it grabs them with absolute curiosity, and a lot of other people are so terrified they're willing to never speak to the person that stood beside them when they had the experience ever again. And that is a weird reaction from me to hear about witness and not know the whys of that alone. But anyway, good discussion, good talking. Thanks for that email. I'm sure there's going to be a pile of people out there who are very interested in what you just shared with us. And make sure you share more, all right? You don't have to ask us if we're interested in hearing about any other topics you bring up. We are interested. We really want to hear it all, man. So when you got time and you feel compelled, just get it out. Get it out, get it over here to us, and let us share and learn. All right? Knowledge is the only way to go. All right, here we go. What's this one? Experience in West Feliciana Parish, Louisiana. Steve, I hunted with a club on 1,000 plus hardwood acres back in the 2010-2012 period. One very cold December morning, I left my truck and walked to my white-tailed deer hunting spot to wait for enough daylight to slowly creep into the woods and access my climbing stand. I had to wait about 15 to 20 minutes in the dark. While waiting, out of the blue, I heard a very loud scream that I could not discern the source. There was a total of 3 to 4 screams that sounded roughly 300 to 400 yards away to the east in a pine plantation. The sound was not from the animal kingdom or our area. I first thought it was a panther, as there are sightings in the parish. After the second or third scream, I knew that this was a really wicked noise, and it scared the life out of me. I thought very hard about ending my hunt and getting the hell out of there. Fortunately, the screaming stopped. I decided to go on my hunt without any further noise or issues. When I returned to the camp, I told my buddies that I'd heard some type of scream that sounded like a woman being tortured or in pain. I asked if anyone else could have heard it, but they did not. I wrote it off to an unknown source and never heard it again, nor did anyone in our club. Fast forward to spring 2021. I came across your videos and became very curious about studying the topic. I eventually learned that it was common to hear the woman-type scream from a Sasquatch. I said to myself, holy shit, is that what I heard back in the day? I cannot verify that what I heard was a Sasquatch, but from the experiences shared on your channel, I believe it must have been one. The shock of thinking these things are real and that they are walking around our property, which I hunted for 25 years, is mind-blowing. I never heard of any reports like this in our region. I started to reflect on other strange noises during my time there. On other morning, I was hunting in a creek drain with thick cover. Around mid-morning, I heard what I thought was a major buck fight. I recall telling my buddies after that it sounded like Sammy Sosa and Mark McGuire squaring off with wooden bats and slamming them together. It was very loud. Got me excited. The clashes occurred several times during a 10 to 15 minute period. I readied my gun thinking it may be able to see one of the bucks, but nothing showed. I waited about 2 hours and decided to go look at the noise source area to see what I could find. I saw nothing, but I surely thought the ground would have had been torn up from all the violent commotion. As I reflect back on those noises, it sounded like it was coming from within a maximum distance of 50 to 75 yards in the woods. I should have been able to also hear the tines clicking, but rather it was more like two giant rams butting their heads. This is typically not what bucks sound like fighting unless you are far in the distance from the source. But I was very close, or so I believe. I now wonder if that could have been Sasquatch hitting trees. I had another hunter explain the exact same occurrence in this past season. Our hunting season is approaching, and I'll certainly be on guard. I'm thankful I did not actually see one in person. I appreciate and respect the good work you are doing for humanity. Please do not share my name. I will share the story with my close friends and hunting companions to make them aware. Thank you, sir. Good work, man. Keep that up too, all right? Make sure you send them this. Your email being read too, all right? And whichever one you feel from my channel or even other channels, whatever you feel would be a real good motivator to catch somebody's attention to see we're dead serious, do it. Don't stop doing it. Do not stop being honest, but stop being scared, all right? Stop being scared. You know, I was away, back when I was away on this past weekend on that elk hunt, nighttime I went back to my buddy's lodge, and I haven't seen the news forever. I think I might have mentioned this in the past video, I can't remember, but the amount of divide, it was amazing to me to see the blatant bullshit. This is on a major news channel, national news channel. It's supposed to be respected, right? And the blatant example of fear and divide was one of the very beginning of a commercial saying, here's the news flash for today. China's got a new virus coming, blah, 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 and it just went on down a whole list of what they're about to talk to, and every single item on that list was about fear and divide of us. Every single news item they rattled off that was coming to be discussed was about fear and divide. More so focused on fear. And it just made me want to vomit. It was like watching an opener advertisement for a show the equivalent of Jerry Springer. It just didn't seem real. It's just such bullshit. That's what I'm getting at. I just wish somehow we could get everybody to dump the mainstream bullshit, dump the mainstream narrative holders, and just start listening to each other. Right? Imagine how far better off this lifetime would be the moment everyone starts listening to each other. It's amazing. It's frustrating, but we're getting it done here one day at a time. Baby steps, right? Baby steps. There's another one. Titled, It Follows Me. Hi Steve, I'm Sherry, and I have some things to share that I even have a hard time believing, and I saw with my own eyes. First time I was followed around by a Sasquatch was about 10 years ago in Arkansas, out by the Current River. I was arrowhead hunting, and I kept getting this feeling I was being watched. I was alone and just tried to ignore it, but then I started smelling something and was hearing kind of heavy breathing. Still I ignored it and kept walking around. I found a few rocks and I was setting them by a tree that had a brick box with mulch inside around the tree. I started feeling kind of weird. So I went to get my rocks and go, but when I returned to where I said the rocks, where I lay the rocks, they were gone in their place. They were gone. In their place were walnuts. I was confused and just left. I know he was watching. Well, fast forward this summer. After losing my brother 3 years ago, there's a few spelling typos here, okay? You guys be patient. I went camping around my birthday just to feel closer to him. So far, I went alone. The end of July, I went camping in Illinois. I live in Iowa now. I've been there for a few days. I was the only tent camper, and I was well away from the other campers. I would say it was about a football field, and I would be on the edge of a 50-yard line with other campers upriver and the woods at the other end of the river in front, with the river right front. I was sitting in my tent with it open around third night, just looking out at the river, and I started like having this vision, like the trees were like characters. I started looking down the river, and one by one they would like reveal themselves. Then they started combining with each other, and I kept hearing, but it's bigger than this, and this was going on as far as I could see. I was thinking, what the hell? But I wasn't really frightened yet. The day after that, a few campsites up, an RV came in with some kids. There were 3 girls and a little boy. The girls were 11 to 14, the boys like 5 or so. They visited several times. Sweet kids and all that, and then went on to play. There's a curious clubhouse built right there, not too far in the woods. I met the parents and everything, that they were up at the shower house or something, when I heard one of the girls scream like she was hurt. So in a split-second decision, I bolted barefoot as fast as I could to help. She was just being left in the cabin, which they had climbed into, and it was too high and she couldn't jump out. Well, I got her down, I got my heart slowed down, and went about my business of camping and getting my fire stuff together so I could hang out by the fire that night. As the sun started going down, I started getting that feeling that something was at the edge of the woods by watching and waiting. Something was at the edge of the woods watching and waiting. By the time it got dark, I could hardly contain the fear I was feeling and just kept telling myself I was being stupid and nothing's out there. Then I heard that scream. It was that little girl's scream coming right there at the edge of those woods. I was like, oh hell no. I knew she was definitely not down there, and I got my ass in the tent. Then it started repeating the scream, but just a little different. Like maybe it didn't get it right the first time. This went on for a while that night, and the next couple of nights, I was feeling like he was trying to lure me into the woods and like make me a part of something, and not in a good way. I started thinking about all these people going missing in these parks, and what if something is tricking them? If I really thought that a kid was out there that night, of course I would have ran right back out there. Would not have thought twice. I honestly don't think it would have come back out. I've been wanting to go camping again, but I'm afraid it's following me. I can feel it when I go out to the rivers and hang out for the day. I try to take a pic of in-tone day, but all it shows is black and black area. Alright. I tried to take a pic one day, but all that shows is the blacker than black area where I know it's watching from. I don't even know what to do about this. Any tips would be greatly appreciated, as I feel scared writing this like it knows. Have you heard of anything like this? Am I the only one that feels this tormented? I don't want it to win. I can't. I want to know why it's doing this. Thanks for listening. I don't know anywhere else I can share this and be taken seriously. People need to know what's out there. Sorry this is so long. Take care. Alright, thanks for sharing that. And that also could be added on to simple questions or facts shared by the people to add on to the Owlman's email, and specifically to him as well. What's up with that? We've had numerous people hear mimicked voices calling out their names, sounding like their brother did the other day, hunting with them, their dad or their uncle, whoever, their mom, and calling them, or even a voice calling their dog. And a lot of people feel like they're being potentially lured into a real bad experience. Now, for me, what I view that as, that's not a typical move for someone who just wants you to leave, or someone who wants to be left alone, or someone who just wants you to know they're there. Like a passive, indigenous, wild people, so to speak, population that, let's say, right here behind me. What's up with that? Let's just say it was one of them. I don't think it is myself. But let's just say it was. Well, what if they just want to be left alone and want us to leave, or want us to not experience something real dangerous and trying to scare us away? What's up with mimicking a voice, especially to a woman all by herself in the nighttime and trying to lure her into the forest? What's up with that, right? And then we have our friend David Pilatus, who is nonstop looking into the disappearances of innocent people, family members, in the forest, and they're gone without a trace, or sometimes parts have showed up months later of their bodies. You know, there's a lot of bad shit going on out there. And furthermore, which is odd, what seems odd to me about this particular email and other similar emails is, if something that absolutely outclasses us, why would something that so easily outclasses us out here, why would they feel the need to have to go through the effort of mimicking a voice to lure us 10 more yards into the forest? You're already there. They got your ass, right? That's a chainsaw, big chainsaw way off in the distance. You can hear that sound now. But don't you think that's a little odd? Something possibly out of this world, out of our world, not saying not on this planet, but possibly something out there needs to mimic a voice we're familiar with, even a name, to potentially lure us to go 20 or 30 or 40, 50 yards that way, or 60 feet that way. I don't understand that. Me being a hunter, a lifelong hunter and a professional hunter, I don't understand that. If I was that being that's trying to mimic a voice, I already got your ass. I got you. You're right there, you're all by yourself in that campground. There's nothing between me and you stopping me from going over there and picking you up and carting you away, if that's what I'm after. Right? Isn't it? Do you think that's confusing? Or, I don't know, what are the possibilities of why, where, what, and how? Is that a voice being mimicked from the other side of a portal? Maybe, to possibly lure that person to walk that way and whoops, you're right through it? I don't know. But even then, if you're something that advanced that you apparently use a portal to come and go, what's stopping you from jumping out of it and grabbing a human being and jumping back in? Right? I don't know. It's confusing as hell, right? Very confusing. And I'm sure somebody's going to somebody's going to be able to tap into what you just wrote and share to us, for sure. What would I do if I were you? You're doing it. You're relying on your sixth sense, your intuition, your gut instincts fed you correct information, and you reacted in the right way, and you're still here with us, right? And you didn't experience anything that might change the color of your hair overnight to white, right? So you're doing the right thing as far as I'm concerned, right up the word go, and that is listening to your instincts, which is good, which is awesome. What to do from here on? Are you being followed? I haven't a clue, ma'am. I haven't a clue. Somebody does. Somebody might. But all I can say from my experience, is just continue to go with your sixth sense, your gut instincts. Continue to go with them. Try to figure out how you can get in more in tune with your sixth sense as well. All right. Dig up, search out every little tidbit of information you can where somebody in the world is in tune with their sixth sense and knows how to show people how to become more in tune with the sixth sense. That's what I would do if I were you. Because in the end, I am 100% certain for me, our intuition is what keeps us alive. It's what guides us to do the right things in every situation. And it is our decision maker. And we need to listen to it before we listen to anybody else. Right? I think that's a big problem with society today, is people have been conditioned to go elsewhere for direction, to go elsewhere for reassurance, when we already have the answers inside of us. I am 289,000% convinced that we have the answers to everything inside of us already. We just have we've lost that connection with our intuition. Right? I think our intuition is possibly much more huge, much bigger than what we think originally. And I think when we are born, we're supposed to be taught how to be in tune with it intimately. But now, for how many generations now, I'm convinced that we are being conditioned to not rely on our sixth sense and to go against it. That's just me, though. All right? Who am I? All right. Puzzled in Oregon. Yeah, I can hear something in the trees right back there. This whole last little discussion, I hear something going on over there. Whatever. Who knows? I don't have any attention for it. I don't even know why I just said that. Possibly because if I can hear it, everybody else can hear it. I spent a lot of time in the outdoors during this 78-year run. I worked as a California State Park ranger for several years, spent a lot of time in Sasquatch territory, and I've never seen a damn thing. No sightings, no sounds, no tree damage, no poop, nada. It may be that God is looking out for me, as I have a tendency to my curiosity to overwhelm my common sense, and it might be best I haven't seen anything. I'm sure I would have tracked it and hounded it until it asked me over for lunch, to be lunch. Anyway, I have a thought and a question. It seems like some folks are much more prone to see it than others. I often wonder if it is some kind of metaphysical being maybe that would affect perception. I'm wide open to anomalous phenomena, but I never see anything. No Sasquatch, no cryptids, no ghosts, no UFOs. Come on, guys, this is boring. Keep on trucking, Steve. Regards, John, Odette, Sisters Oregon. John, thanks for that, man. I'm kind of glad you sent that because nobody else has sent one like that in. And I'll bet you there's probably thousands of people listening right now and they're saying, you're one lucky SOB. You luckily made it this far without becoming a member of the Club of No Return. Bravo. Good for you. And you're not alone, though. You wouldn't believe how many people I know. I just mentioned a few friends I was with this past weekend. They've been loggers, hunters, hunting guides, and fishing guides and commercial fishermen since the day where they're born in British Columbia. They're in their 60s now, late 50s. They got zero interest in the topic. They never seen or heard anything. They don't give a shit. They know nothing. Isn't that crazy? I don't get it. I don't know why. But then again, there's a lot of shit that goes on in our lifetime like that too, right? Even just with if you're a hunter, all right? There's a pile of guys out there. There's probably thousands of guys out there that have never, ever in their lifetime seen a 4-point black-tailed deer, ever in their life. It's a very rare thing. But they've been out in the woods all their life. They've been hunting deer all their life. They've never seen one. Never experienced it, ever. Meanwhile, there's other guys that have seen 5 and 6 and 7-point black-tailed bucks in the timber back here. And that's tough for a lot of people to believe because they've never seen anything like that ever in their 30, 40 years of hunting. Ever. So I don't know. Is it like blackjack? Is it deal of the cards? Or is it our genetic makeup? Is it what we're in tune with our given original skills that we were given? Is that it? I don't know. But at least you recognize the fact that just because you haven't experienced it yourself doesn't eliminate the possibility, right? That means you're probably a lot more advanced between the years than a lot of people today, right? Without a doubt. But anyway, moving on. I'm gonna go find another spot to do some sheriffs today. I gotta go away for a few days. I gotta travel 7 hours back to the original home, pick up another load of stuff. See some friends, which would be good. And I gotta get some trail cameras out where I'm going as well for this fall. And if you guys remember that trail camera I set, do you remember that trail camera I set where that stand got tore down last spring? That was the first time I've been back there in a long time. I'm gonna make a point of going back there in the next few days and grabbing that camera too. And that'll be an interesting one, because remember I hung that bag of rotten meat off of a string 12 feet up in the air in front of the camera. So who knows what's on that game camera. If I had to guess right now, there's gonna be grizzly bear, black bear, wolves, moose, and possibly a few deer. And maybe a cougar, and possibly bobcat. And that's gonna be my prediction to what's gonna be on that trail camera. And I guess in a fun little fantasy world, it'd be something big and hairy coming up and standing right in front of it in broad daylight. But we all know they're far too intelligent to do something that stupid, right?